Alright, what am I to tell you? Where are we? Gevaldige story. Right. Oh, okay. Alright, what am I to tell you? Hey friends, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tezayin, Daf 16 of Masechta Yevamos, friends. Who could tell me what Daf 16 talks about? Well, Daf 16 is Gevaldige, let me tell you. It's a Geschmack story. And Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph. And then we talk about some other things. What do you want me to tell you? Friends, let's get started over here. But it's still within the context of, or at least initially within the context of trying to figure out, did Beis Shammai do like their own opinion, or did they not do like their own opinion? Alright, so we're going to start on the first line of the page. All the way at the top of Tezayin Amud Aleph. Toshma, come in here. Friends, come in here. Kimaran, bimei Reb Dosa ben Harkinos, that during the days of Reb Dosa, the son of Harkinos, Hutra Tzares Habas La'achin, the co-wife of the daughter was permitted to the brothers, Shmamino also Shmamino. That during the days of Dosa ben Harkinas, or Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, who we're going to hear about in a minute, they permitted, when you have Reuven, Shimon, Sarah and Rivka is Shimon's daughter, Reuven dies. So during the days of Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, they permitted Shimon to marry Sarah, the co-wife of the daughter. So, Shmamino also Shmamino. So we see that, apparently there were those who held that Sarah does Yibum, i.e., who holds that opinion? Shammai. So clearly Shammai did like their own opinion. Gufa, so we just said a second ago, Bimei Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, Hitiyu Tzares Habas La'achin, that during the days of Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, they permitted the co-wife of the daughter to the brothers. V'hoya hadover kosher lachachomim, and it was very shver, that the rabbis, it was very difficult for them that this was happening. Because Reb Dosa ben Harkinas was a big deal. He was a heavy hitter. He was a big Talmud Chacham. And his opinion, has a lot of clout and a lot of weight. And therefore, if you have Reb Dosa ben Harkinas saying that the tzara is permitted to the brother, so people are going to be doing that. And the rabbis had a what's that called? What's that called when things are complicated? Had a crisis, because how do they manage the situation? And do damage control and make sure that society is going to thrive even with this challenge. And Reb Dosa ben Harkinas was already older, and he had a difficult time seeing, and he didn't really go to the Beis HaMedrash anymore and interact with the rest of the rabbis. So basically the rabbis had a situation. There's this seemingly rogue, important, authoritative rabbi who's poskening like Beis Shammai that the co-wife can marry the brother, and it was modna. And they were trying to figure out how to manage the situation. So they said, no. So who will go v'yodio, and basically who will go to talk to Reb Dosa ben Harkinas and try to, see if we could find a solution over here. So Omer learn Rabbi Yoshua ani elech. So Rabbi Yoshua, Gevaldige, Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, he says, I'll go. Bachar of me. Okay, who else is going to go? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Friends, this is already a stark group forming. So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah volunteered as well. Bachar of me, who else? Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva volunteered as well. What a crew. Rabbi Yoshua, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva. We're going to go to speak with Reb Dosa ben Harkinas and see if they could, solve this situation. So they went and they stood by the entrance of the house of Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, And then his maidservant came in and said to Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, Rebbe Chachmei Yisrael bo netzlecha, that there are rabbis here, there's a group of rabbis here to visit you. Omar lo, so Reb Dosa ben Harkinas said to his maidservant, Yikansu, yeah, let them in. V'nichnesu, and they came in. Tfasu le Rabbi Yoshua, Reb Dosa ben Harkinas took Rabbi Yoshua, who was the oldest of the group, Voshivu al mita shel zav, and he sat Rabbi Yoshua on a bed of gold. Omar le Rebbe, emul tamidcha acher v'yeshev. So then Rabbi Yoshua indicated to Reb Dosa ben Harkinas that there's more in the group, that maybe you could request that one of the other rabbis come and sit as well. Amalo mihu. So Reb Dosa ben Harkinas said to Rabbi Yoshua, who is this other rabbi? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Yoshua says it's Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Omar, to which Reb Dosa ben Harkinas says, V'yesh lo ben Azariah chavereinu. Our friend Azariah has a son. Kara olav hamikra azeh. Rabbi Yoshua responded with the following pasuk: Nara yisi gam zakanti, v'lora yisi tzadik nezav, v'zar mevakesh lachem. That I've been young, I've also been old, and I've never seen a righteous fellow deserted with his children looking for bread. Because of course we know Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was exceedingly wealthy, and apparently I guess his father Azariah was as well, and therefore Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas was saying to Rabbi Yoshua, wow, Azariah has a son. And Rabbi Yoshua says, yes, he does, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and he's just as wealthy as his father. He inherited his father's wealth. Whereas he says, that we haven't seen a righteous fellow abandoned with his children asking for bread, i.e., Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Baruch Hashem, has everything that he needs. So Rabbi Elazar ben Harkinas had Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah sit on a golden bed as well. And then Rabbi Yoshua says to Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas, there's one more. Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas says, who's the other rabbi? Akiva ben Yosef. Says Rabbi Yoshua that the third rabbi who came is Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas says to Rabbi Akiva, Atahu Akiva ben Yosef sheshimcha holich misof ha'olam v'ad sofo. Are you the Rabbi Akiva? Are you the Akiva ben Yosef that your name is known from one end of the world to the other? Shev ben Yishev, please sit. Kimoscha yirbu b'Yisrael, there should be many more like you in Israel. So they started beating around the bush with different halachic questions. Until they got to the question that they were really here to ask, which was, so he said to Reb Dosa ben Harkinas, okay, so what's the deal with the co-wife of the daughter? So he says, okay, it's machlokas. Beishamai says mutter to the Sarah to Shimon, and Beis Hillel says also halacha k'tivrei. So they pressed Reb Dosa ben Harkinas further, and who's the halacha like? So it says Reb Dosa ben Harkinas that the halacha is Beis Hillel. And everyone's like, huh? That's not why we came. We didn't come here to tell you for you to tell us that the halacha is like Beis Hillel. We know the halacha is like Beis Hillel. We thought that you said that the halacha is like Beis Shammai. But we came because we were all worked up and nervous that you were spreading rumors that the halacha was like, and you were passing halacha like Beis Shammai, and it was causing people to marry each other. We thought it was a terrible thing, and here we are, and you're telling us that halacha is like Beis Hillel. He says, wait a second. So Dosa ben Harkinas says, 1 second. Tell me exactly what you heard. Did you hear that Reb Dosa ben Harkinas says that the halacha is like Beis Shammai? Or did you hear Ben Harkinas, but it could have been my brother? So Amrulei, Chaye Rebbe, Stam Shamainu. So they said, you're taka right. We didn't hear that they said Reb Dosa ben Harkinas says that the halacha is like Beis Shammai. Rather, we just heard Ben Harkinas. Amrulei, Reb Dosa ben Harkinas says to them, Achkot yeshli b'chorsa'inu. I have a younger brother, and he's a tough cookie. V'Yonasan Shmai. His name is Yonasan. V'Humi Talmidei Shammai, and he is one of the students of Shammai. V'Yizaru, and friends, let me warn you. Be careful. Shlei kapech eschem ba'halachis, that he won't outsmart you with halachis. Lefi sheyesh imo shlosh meis tshuvis b'tzaras habas sheimuteres, because he'll give you 300 reasons why the co-wife of the daughter should be permitted. Avol meid ani alai shemayim va'aretz, but I testify about the heavens and the earth. Sha'amadocha zo yoshev Chagai Hanavi, that Chagai the prophet during the time of the second temple sat on a mortar and he said, he said three things. Tzaras habas asura. Number one, that the co-wife of the daughter is asura. Amun Moav ma'asin ma'aser oni b'shvius, and that in Evar Yarden, in the lands of Ammon and Moab, they take ma'aser oni during Shemitah. We'll get there in a minute. U'mekablen geir mina karduyin u'mina tarmudim, and that we receive converts, proselytes from the Karduyan people and from the Talmudim people. Okay, fine. So what happens? So the rabbis all thought that Reb Dosa ben Harkinos, who is this big Talmud Chacham and a big posek and a respected individual, so they thought that he was saying that the halacha was like Beis Shammai. It turns out that no, he agrees that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, but he has a brother, Yonasan, who can give you 300 reasons why the halacha is like Beis Shammai, that the co-wife marries the brother. But nonetheless, it says Reb Dosa ben Harkinos, I can attest that, I think attest means like testify, right? I guess so. Attest, testify. Why not? So, well, let's just assume that. So that Chagai, the prophet, said three things. One of them was that the co-wife is forbidden to the brother. Okay, so there it is. The Reb Dosa ben Harkinos, in fact, agrees with the rabbis that the halacha is like Beis Hillel, that the tzara is a suratana, who's taught nichnasu bepesach echad. When they went in to visit Reb Dosa ben Harkinos, they went in through, all through the same entrance. But when they left, each one left through a different door to spread out. Either because either to increase the chances of running into Yonasan so that they could interact with him and chat with him, or to decrease the chances of, meaning if all three of them together and they interact with him and then he outsmarts them, it could put them in a difficult situation. Whatever it is, for whatever reason, they made the tactical decision to exit through separate doors. Pagabob Reb Akiva. And sure enough, Yonasan, this brother of Dosa ben Harkinos, Yonasan, he bumped into Reb Akiva, Akshile ve'ukme, and they discussed the sugya together. And sure enough, Yonasan outwitted Reb Akiva. Omar lo, Yonasan says to Reb Akiva, Atahu Akiva sheshimcha holich misofa olam v'ad sofo. You are this Reb Akiva that you're famous. The whole world knows about this brilliant Reb Akiva. Ashrecha shezachisa l'shem ve'adayin lo igata l'roi boker. So fortunate are you that you have this great reputation, and that everybody, when they hear Akiva ben Yosef, they say, "Ooh, wow, Reb Akiva, very nice. It's great that you have a good name, but lemaise, you're not even a cattle herder." Omelo Reb Akiva v'afilu l'roitzon. Says Reb Akiva, I agree. Not only am I not a cattle herder, I'm not even a sheep herder. Oof, wow, friends. Was it worth struggling through the first 15 daf of Masechta Yevamos just in order to hear that story? Friends, there's only one answer to that question. The answer is yes, it was worth it. That was a Gevaldige Maise. And a great conclusion too. So now, we had said it a few minutes ago that Chagai had paskin three things. One, that the co-wife is also to the brother. Okay, fine. Two, that in Ammon and Moab during Shemitah, of course this year is Shemitah in Eretz Yisrael. So Ammon and Moab, they would have Meiser Oni during Shemitah, which is a very interesting thing. But there's a few implications of that, right? One is that, of course, it means that Ammon and Moab are not part of Eretz Yisrael. Because if it was part of Eretz Yisrael, then they wouldn't work the fields. And Memela, right in Eretz Yisrael, and during Shemitah, there's no Truma and Meiser because you're not working the field. And we don't have Truma and Meiser. So basically, what it's saying is that Ammon and Moab was not considered part of Eretz Yisrael. And what's also interesting about that is that if it's not part of Eretz Yisrael, then there's no Trumas and Meisus Bechlal. But nonetheless, they made a takana, a gezerah, that in the lands of Ammon and Moab, they would have Meiser Ani during Shemitah, so that the Aniyim would be able to collect to have food to eat. So Ammon and Moab ma'asun Meiser Sheni v'Shvius. So says the Gemara that Chagai had said that Ammon and Moab, they tied the Meiser Ani during Shemitah. Tomamar, because we said as we've seen before. Where have we seen this? In Chagiga, that there are many cities that they made part of Eretz Yisrael, that they made holy with the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael when they came into Eretz Yisrael the first time with Yoshua, the people from Mitzrayim who made it to Eretz Yisrael. However, after the destruction of the first temple, and subsequently when the Yidden came back to Eretz Yisrael, they did not claim those parts to be part of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore they were not considered part of Eretz Yisrael. And Ammon and Moab were those areas that were excluded from Eretz Yisrael when the Yidden came back with Ezra. And the initial holiness of Eretz Yisrael was temporary. It only lasted until the first temple was destroyed. Once the first temple was destroyed, the initial holiness of Eretz Yisrael went away. And then, and when the Yidden came back to Eretz Yisrael during the times of Ezra for the second temple, there were certain parts of Eretz Yisrael that was initially part of Eretz Yisrael the first time around that they left out, that they excluded the second time around, because the initial holiness expired after the first temple was destroyed, and then they reinstated the holiness when the Yidden came back for Bayis Sheni, but they strategically excluded certain areas that were initially part of Eretz Yisrael, so that in those areas poor people would have what to eat during Shvius. Very, very interesting stuff. And the third thing that Chagai said was that that we accept proselytes from the Karduyim people and from the Tarmudim people. Ini, really? Vatani Rami Bar Yechezkel. Rami Bar Yechezkel taught, Ein mekablim gerim min hakarduyim. We do not accept proselytes. I think that's a word. Well, when I say proselyte, I mean a ger, a convert. Proselytes, I don't know, it's not exactly funny, but I don't know, I feel like it's has more personality and character than convert. A proselyte. So, I think it means a convert. So Tani Rami Bar Yechezkel, that we do not accept proselytes from Karduyim. So what do? On the one hand, Chagai says we do. It's taught by Rami Bar Yechezkel that we don't. Ravashi, Kartuyim Hitmar. No, it was stated that we don't accept proselytes from Kartuyim, but Karduyim we do. Kedamar Inshe, like people say, Kartuyim Psulim, that the Kartuyim people are puzzle. That those who say, Tani Rami Bar Yechezkel taught, in Mekabim Gerim Minak Kartuyim, we do not accept proselytes from the Kartuyim. My lab, Hainu Kartuyim. Wait, but aren't the Kartuyim the same thing as the Karduyim? Ravashi says, Ravashi, no. Kartuye lichud v'karduye lichud. No, the Kartuye are one people, the Karduye are another people. Kidaminshe, like people say, Kartuye psile. Like the people say that the Kartuye are apostle. But the Karduye, as Chagai says, we would be allowed to accept proselytes from them. Rabbi Yochanan v'Savya damitavayu, that Rabbi Yochanan and Savya both say, Ein mekablim gerim minat tarmudim. Okay, we do not accept proselytes from the Tarmudim. All right. Did Rabbi Yochanan really say that we do not accept proselytes from the Tarmudim? But we learn in the Mishnah. Where's this Mishnah? That any stains, any, like if you have a garment that comes from Rekem, this place called Rekem, so if you get like a garment from there and there is what looks like a blood stain on the garment, so if you have to be concerned about if it's dam nida, so tahorim. We say that it's tahor because in Rechem the people are not Jewish, and there's, as Rashi says, that there's no gezerah about the blood stains of Ovdei Kochavim. Okay, fine. So therefore they're pure if they come from Rechem because they're not Jewish. Rabbi Yehuda Matame. Rabbi Yehuda says that the stains are Tomei, Pneishem Gerim V'toim. That no, Taka in Rechem, the Ksomim, the stains would be, if you have a garment that comes from Rechem with the stain, it would Taka be Tomei because there are proselytes there and they don't really know what they're doing. They're gone awry, so they are actually Jewish though, and therefore you have to be concerned about the Ksomim. However, from Gentiles, so the Ksomim would be Tahor. We ask the Kasha. So we seem to be saying that from any Ovdei Kochavim, the Kesem would be Tahor, va'afilu min Talmud, even from Talmud, which makes it sound like Talmud they're just regular Gentiles, and if they're regular Gentiles, then we would be able to accept proselytes. Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Yochanan is also meres mekabel gerim miTalmud. So this indicates if they're just right, if even the Talmudim, their Ksomim are Tahor, so then that would mean that they're just regular Gentiles, in which case we should accept proselytes. So on the one hand, we said Rabbi Yochanan b'Savi Damitavai ein mekabel gerim min Talmudim, that we do not accept proselytes from Talmudim, but we seem to be indicating, well, over here Rabbi Yochanan seems to be indicating that what? So meres mekabel gerim miTalmud, that we do accept proselytes from Talmud. And if you're going to say that, in a Chanami, Rabbi Yochanan himself doesn't actually hold of that, he doesn't hold of this brisa. Rabbi Yochanan says that the halacha is like a stam mishnah, that if there's an uncontested, that if there's just a lone opinion and it's uncontested, it's unattributed, uncontested, so the halacha is going to be like that. So therefore, I would assume that Rabbi Yochanan would say like the, what is it, Mishnah, is it Brisa? One of these. A Mishnah, it's a Mishnah. So the halacha is like a stam Mishnah. So on the one hand, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that we do not accept proselytes from Talmudim, but on the other hand, he's saying that we do. So Amoraim Valibut Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara answers, well, there are two Amoraim who are explaining the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, i.e., there's differing opinions about what Rabbi Yochanan actually said. Do we accept proselytes from Talmudim or not? In fact, the Gemara miTalmud my Talmud lo. So what's the deal with Talmud? Why would I think that there's an issue with accepting proselytes from Talmud? Pligiba Rabbi Yochanan v'Savia. So it's taka machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Savia. Chad Omer mishum Abdei Shlomo v'chad Omer mishum Bnos Yerushalayim. Once that the issue with converts from Talmud is because of the servants of Solomon, and the other says it's because of the daughters of Jerusalem, that the servants of Solomon were not Jewish, and they were also very wealthy, and they would marry the Jewish women, and the assumption being that if this Gentile were to marry a Jewish woman, the child would be a mamzer, and they then moved to Talmud, and therefore the people from Talmud, we do not accept the Gentiles from them. And the Gemara is going to explain what these daughters of Jerusalem is. Okay, fine. So again, miTalmud my Talmud lo, why do we not accept the proselytes from Talmud? So pligiba Rabbi Yochanan v'Savia. We have machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Savia, Charom mishum Abdei Shlomo, v'Charom mishum Bnos Yerushalayim. One says out of concern for the servants of Shlomo, and the other because of the daughters of Jerusalem. So I understand the opinion who says that we're concerned because of the servants of Shlomo, because he holds Oved Kuchom ve'Eved Haba Bas Yisrael of Vlad Mamzer, that if you have a Gentile a slave, I guess a Gentile slave, that sleeps with a Jewish woman and has a baby, Havlad Mamzer. The baby is a Mamzer. But according to the Mandam, who says that we're concerned about the daughters of Jerusalem, Mahi, what are we talking about? Pligi Rav Yosef Rabbanon. So it's machlokas between Rav Yosef and the rabbis. V'tavai mishmei de Rabbi Babachana. Both of them in the name of Rabbi Babachana. Chad Omar, one of them says, Treser alfei gavre v'shisa alfei kashtuye. Some say that there were 12,000 men, and additionally another 6,000 archers. V'chad Omar Treser alfei gavre minayu shisa alfei kashtuye. Those who say that there was a total of 12,000 men, 6,000 of them were archers, like bow and arrow shooter people. When the idol worshippers entered into the heichel, to the sanctuary, so they all went to raid the gold and the silver and to enrich themselves. But these archers, nifnu abnos Yisrael, they seeked out the daughters, the Bnos Yerushalayim, the daughters of Jerusalem, and raped the daughters of Jerusalem. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Noshim b'tzion inu b'sulos bar Yehuda, that they raped the Jewish women when they came to plunder Eretz Yisrael, and it's those and then those children ended up in Talmud, and that's why we don't convert people from there, or we don't accept converts from there. Amr Rav Shmuel ben Achmani, Amr Yonason says, Rav Shmuel ben Achmani, the name of Yonason, pasuk says, Sarah Olam Amaru. The following pasuk was said by the minister of the world. He's an angel. Now, Ra'isigam Zakanti, that I was a lad and I've also gotten older. Man Amari, who said it? If you're going to say that the Eibishter said that verse, Mika Zikna Kame, is there old age by the Eibishter? Ve'ela David Amar. Okay, so maybe you'll suggest that David HaMelech said the verse. Mikashish Kulei. Did David HaMelech ever really get that old? I mean, I think he passed away at 70 years old. I guess it wasn't considered that old, I guess. Elo Shmamino Sarah Olam Amaru. It must be that this angel, the minister of the world, he's the one who said that verse. From Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar Yonason, Ma'dichsev Yodu Poras Tsar Al Kol Machmadeo, that the Tsar, the aggressor, he extended his hand on all of its desires. Ze Amonu Moab. This is Ammon and Moab b'shashnichnasu of the Kochavim the Heichel, when the idol worshippers entered into the sanctuary. Hakol nifnu al kesav v'zav. They all were in search of gold and silver. Ve'im nifnu al sefer Torah. They went to seek out the sefer Torah. Amru, they said, Zeh shekasuv bo, this scroll that in it says, Lo yavo Ammoni Moavi b'kal Hashem, that no Ammonite and Moabite could come into the nation of Israel, to the congregation of God. Yisariv ba'esh, let it be burnt in fire. Tziva Hashem liYaakov sviv of tzarav, that when it says that God commanded upon Jacob oppressors all around, Amurav could go in Homanya the Fumnaira, like the city of Homanya, that they would be nudniks and they would give a hard time to Pumnara. Friends, that was daf 16 of Masechta Yevamos. I think for the most part it was a very interesting daf, because there was that story with Rav Dosa ben Harkinos and Rav Yoshua, Rav Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva went to visit him. So again, it was in the context of trying to figure out if the people of Shammai actually did like Shammai's opinion. It would seem like the answer is yes. Along the way, we also learned out, shtickle kedusha rishona kitchel shaita v'kitchel asud lavo, or really that below kitchel asud lavo. And then we learned about accepting converts from different places, and we're gonna shtickle, I think, continue with that tomorrow. Peace out.